I had a brilliant time at T100 London. The race was fun, it was fast, and it was hard. But it was harder than it should have been, because I broke my own nutrition rules the day before the race. As a registered sports nutritionist focusing on triathlon, I've worked with hundreds of triathletes and I warned them against the things that I did. And honestly, I paid for it on race day. So in this video, I'm going to show you what went wrong, what went right, and how you can avoid the mistakes that I made. The whole T100 weekend was something that I'd been looking forward to because I'd heard that the atmosphere and event was amazing. But perhaps the thing that I was most excited about was that I was given media access by the T100 team, so I could head to all the juicy areas that you aren't normally allowed to go. So on the Saturday, which was the day before my race, I went into media nerd mode. Shout out to this chump. I was allowed into the media section at the finish area and was able to chat with Lucy Charles Barclay immediately after the race, to Kate Woff and Taylor Knibb, and hear about their experience from a nutrition perspective during the race. And this was amazing. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do this and help push more interest in nutrition. Alongside doing the pro interviews, I had a mission to chat to as many age group triathletes as I could and hear about their journey into triathlon. It was incredible to hear their stories, why they started triathlon and what kept them motivated. I'll save that for another video, but it was super cool to get that insight. Suffice to say, this was a brilliant day. It was full of stuff that the nutrition nerd and YouTuber side of me loved. I was also very humbled by so many people cheering me on during the race or stopping to say that they watched my videos. That genuinely meant a lot, so thank you. But here's the thing, this was absolutely awful race prep. Like, terrible. You see, I had a busy day. It was full on. I was on my feet all day, I did around 20,000 steps, and I definitely didn't stay as hydrated as I should have. On top of that, I was somewhat anxious for a lot of the day, interviewing the pros and then the age group triathletes. It's not a particularly comfortable thing for me to just walk up to a random triathlete and ask if I could chat with them. So by the end of the day, I was frazzled, and then I had to get all my kit properly ready for the next day. By the time I actually got to sleep, it was late, so I had a couple of hours of bad kip before being up for the race. Honestly, the only reason the race still went okay-ish was because the fueling plan I'd practiced was so dialed in. So this all started with the carb loading plan, and this is the food that I consumed that day. The first thing I had when I got up was a couple of Morton Solid bars. Now, I really enjoy these bars and I find them just super easy to eat and a great way to get some carbs in, so I had this with a coffee when I first woke up. Then it was on to my breakfast, which was a Lucozade Sport, some Frosties and some lactose-free milk. Now, if you've watched some of my videos before, you'll know that I go for lactose-free milk because I follow a low FODMAP diet leading up to races because it just helps me to digest food and I feel much better for it. So this is why you'll see this in my carb load plan. But this is a super easy way to get some carbs in and it really doesn't feel like I've eaten much at all. Then we had a couple of hours drive to get to the Excel Centre in London, which is where the race registration and race HQ was. And on the way I had a Morton 320 drink mix and a bag of squashies. Now, these two together feel a bit ridiculous because it basically feels just like I haven't actually eaten anything. You know, I'm just like, I go through it and my tummy is like, are you going to give me some food? And I'm like, well, I actually just gave you 180 grams of carbohydrates. But this is brilliant because then by the time we actually got to the Excel Centre, I was about to have my lunch because I thought, well, if I take my lunch with me and I know I've got something to eat that actually will fill me up a little bit, but is full of carbs, and if the next couple of hours are going to be busy, which it turns out they really were, then this was going to be putting me in really good stead. So I scoffed all of that, and then it was on to my afternoon snacks. Now, here I had planned to have a Morton 320 drink mix with some more Frosties. But, as you can see, that is no longer in my carb loading plan because I forgot my Frosties. So I had to just use what I had or what was available, and I had another Morton 320 drink mix because I took spare of my race nutrition, so I just had another one of those because I was like, well, it's easy carbs. But I also wanted something else a bit more solid in the afternoon, so I went to the Morton stand and they were giving out free tasters of the Morton Solid bars in halves, and I said, hey, I need some more carbs. I forgot my Frosties. And they were like, yeah, sure, have a Morton Solid. And I was like, amazing, thank you. But then I had quite a big gap between having that at maybe like 3:30 and then getting home and having dinner, which was probably about 7:30 by the time I actually got to eat it. And this was a really big gap, and I felt hungry. It really wasn't ideal, and I knew that I wasn't drinking enough or having any sodium. Normally I would have had extra sodium throughout the day, but I didn't because I forgot my hydration tablets. But overall, you can see that I had just over 800 grams of carbohydrates, and this number puts me at around just under 12 grams of carbohydrates per kilo of body weight, which is at the upper end of the carb loading guidance. Now, I did this for my previous race and felt really good, so I knew that if I pushed it as high as that, firstly, it would just be good for my performance anyway, but if it was going to be a busy day, it would at least safeguard me compared to something like 8 or 9 grams of carbs per kilo of body weight. As it turns out, that was very fortunate. But I also kept the protein and fat low and the fiber too, and this is really just to help make sure I digest all the food properly and don't have anything heavy still sitting on race day, and just reduce the risk of tummy upset. So then it was on to race morning, and I had my standard breakfast of white rice, but I had to add sugar onto the top of it because I forgot maple syrup. There's a recurring theme here, isn't there? I also realized at this point that I had forgotten my gels, and I normally have a Morton 160 gel before my race, and I didn't have that. So I was like, well, what else can I do? And I had another spare Morton 320 calf mix. So I was like, well, I'll have half of that with breakfast, and then I'll have another half just before my swim, because that'll still give me the same amount of carbs. I made it a little bit more concentrated, so I mixed it in with about 400 mils of water, and then about 20 minutes before the start of my swim, I had the remaining 200 mils and 40 grams of carbohydrates, and I guess there was a nice little bonus kick of caffeine at that point too. So onto the bike, and my strategy was to mix one Morton 320 drink mix in 700 mils of water, have 2 of those over the course of the bike, one of them being a caffeinated mix, and one Morton Gel 100, which would be then 185 grams of carbs over the whole bike. The bike took me 2 hours and 9 minutes, which I was pretty happy with. I had a good little pack that I could stay with, no drafting just in case you're thinking it, and I made good time on it. Honestly, I probably went a little bit hard on the bike, but I was having fun, so what can you do? Then it was onto the run, and this is where things really came apart. My legs were a little more fatigued than I would have liked due to the bike, but what I found is that I had no mental reserves to push during the run. Like, I just couldn't. I didn't want to. Normally in races, I grit it. I really get into it. I enjoy that bit of pain, that bit of suffering, but not this one. In the first couple of laps, I really wanted to see my wife and my little kiddo. I thought seeing them would give me a real boost. I wanted to give them a hug and a kiss, and I thought that's going to really make me feel better and get into this run more. Then I got on to the third lap of the run, and I realized I didn't want to see them because I was worried that I would quit. At this point, I was feeling a bit emotional. I had to have a lot of chats with myself to say, James, just keep on going. And at one aid station, I stopped, poured water over myself, and I just stood there. And I thought, do I really want to do this? And I decided, yes, I did. And I knew I would feel happy for doing it after, but I couldn't face it right there. I had one Morton Gel 100 and then swapped to the Morton 160 drink mix and had multiple cups of that throughout the run. I did the run in 1 hour and 25, which is not particularly good for me. I can go a lot faster, but I just didn't want to embrace the pain. And I know this is because I didn't have any mental strength left. The day before had just completely sapped me, but I finished. And do you know what? I was bloody proud of myself for doing that. I didn't go as fast as I could have, but that's fine. So let's look at my mistakes and break them down and show you how you can stop making the same ones as me. Protect your energy the day before your race. Keep your steps low and avoid being on your feet all day. When you're doing that, you're just adding extra burden onto your body and you're going to make yourself more tired than you should be. I know it's really exciting, especially with things like the pro racing or going to look around the expo, but honestly, this is going to detract from your race. Stay on top of your hydration and consume sodium. I should have drank way more than I did, and I also didn't consume enough sodium given how much I was sweating and also how much I normally recommend in that pre-hydration period anyway without doing loads of stuff. Manage your stress and downtime, so don't overload yourself with commitments. It's so tempting, but during this pre-race period, you want to be calm, you want to be relaxed and not feel like you are struggling to go to so many different things and you're like stretching yourself that day before your race. And along with that, prioritize an early night. Even if you don't go to sleep immediately, just chill out, just relax, know you've got everything sorted and not do what I did where at 11 o'clock you were still trying to pack and get everything sorted. Stick to your fueling plan. Don't forget to pack your carb loading snacks. To be fair, I did reasonably well and had most stuff on me, but I could have done better and I usually do. But by packing extra race nutrition, I actually did myself a favor because I could use this during the pre-race period. So along with that, make sure you actually pack your pre-race snack. I was okay because I had packed extra race nutrition and I was just able to use that instead. But this could have been a big issue. Make a spreadsheet or an easy tick list so that you can just know that you've got that packed and it's not going to cause you a problem. Race smarter than me. Hold back on the bike so that you've got some legs left for the run. I'm a culprit for this because I love the bike, I find it really fun and I get into the zone. But actually, when I push that bit too hard, I really feel it on the run. A triathlon is more than just a bike, so if you put everything into the bike and then you can't run, well, you're gonna go slower. I know that overall I would have gone a bit quicker had I lost a couple of minutes on the bike and then ran much stronger. And remember that if you really want to race well, then you need those mental reserves, and they come from being fresh. Being tired, stressed, anxious, all of those emotions that you deal with before a race and that I had loads of in the day before my race make it so much harder to dig deep because you've already mentally drained yourself. So this is really why I recommend having a chill, relaxed day if you can. But with all that said and done, I had fun. I enjoyed it. It was a fantastic atmosphere and I would highly recommend T100 London as a race. I'd go back for sure and would love to see some more of you there as well. Now, I mentioned earlier that it is key to stay hydrated in the pre-race period, and it can make such a difference. But the impact it can have on your day-to-day training is wild. And if you want to make sure that yours is perfect, then you should check out this video here.